Today we'll be diving deep into Sula Vineyards, a DRHP. And we've done a brief reading of the DRHP, we being me, co-founder at Read-On, Shantanu Jain, and Rajat, founding team member at Read-On. And we'll be talking about the DRHP in depth. We'll be talking about how to read a DRHP, what are the important sections in the DRHP to focus on, how to declutter the noise from the DRHP, and at the end of the day, how to do a financial analysis about the company, also about the opportunity also, and of course a deep study into the industry, the wine industry in India, and somewhat the alco-beverages industry also. So hoping to have a lot of fun, guys. Hoping to enjoy these next whatever 45, 60, 90 minutes. How many of you here drink or have had wine or have tasted wine at least? You can raise your hands. ऐसा शर्माने का नहीं है. Mahipal has. Very good, Mahipal. Ayushi has. Ayushi, you're under. No, you're over age. ठीक है. Who else has? बस यार फिर तो आप लोगों को मेरी तरह बहुत कुछ सारा deep insights मिलेगी about the whole wine making process, wine tasting process, everything. 5S and everything we'll discuss. And most probably we'll be pseudo connoisseur, and we'll be able to have those conversations with people who love wine also. So adds a social element to our conversation today. Joseph, you are too young to have. I'm happy that you've not had. And Varun, cheers. No, I don't want to motivate anybody to start. But probably when you look at the industry, you'll be motivated to make money on it.
Yeah.
So let's start off here. Let's start off with today's company, the center stage. Let Sula take the center stage today. And how we'll pace this session is first we'll talk about the relevant stuff that you can look in a DRHP, and we'll talk about the contents page a bit. 3 to 5 minutes at least I'll spend there, and you can quiz me on that a bit if you have any questions there. Number 2, we'll talk about the industry in depth. I'll try and explain the value chain also. We'll brainstorm on the problems that can occur in the space, and I want you to think about the problems before I tell you that, hey, these are the problems or these are the opportunities in the space. So we'll try and make it a interesting case study kind of a conversation. And after that, we'll talk a bit in depth about Sula and its competition also, its presence in India, and how it has over time grown and started dominating the market. And number 3, about the valuation and what could be the price at which this would get listed, or at least a broad valuation metric at which this could get listed, or if it is a higher valuation that these folks are demanding, then whether it makes sense to put your money into it or not. So a holistic whole picture is something that we'll try and discuss. We'll try to do it as fast as possible, but again, I haven't paced this, so disclaimer there that this can drag a bit longer also. So thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us. We'll just, this is the first page. They've started making this table these days. Otherwise, it would just be lines and lines of garbage written, very jargon heavy stuff here. Isme sabse important cheese that we need to understand is a company that is bringing out an IPO can do it in 2 ways, right? It can have an offer for sale, or it can have a fresh issue, right? So what is a fresh issue? Fresh issue is basically that the company is issuing new shares directly to the shareholders, to the new shareholders, and the money is coming into the company. So the company will start using that money. That's a fresh issue IPO, right? Number 2 is offer for sale. There are already existing investors who have some shares of the company that they now want to sell, and they don't want to sell it to a FII or a bigger, larger organization, to a PE or a VC. They want to sell it to retail investors. They want to get listed on the stock exchanges. So they come out with an offer for sale. Usually we see that there are either fresh issues, 100% fresh issue, that they're raising capital. Why are they raising capital? To grow, to invest probably in expanding or in meeting working capital requirements. It's a long-term working capital kind of a thing. And why do we see? And then there are sometimes that we see offer for sale also. Now, where do we see offer for sale? Usually startups, we see that a lot, right? That the older investors who had invested when the company was a baby, and they helped the company grow to a scale, and then they want some capital appreciation to happen for them also. So that's when they bring out an offer for sale. They sell their shares to the public. Zomato being a case and Paytm being a case, which just made a lot of us lose a lot of money. Now, for this particular company, what is interesting, and this is something that I look, the first thing probably that I look at is kitna percent fresh issue hai, kitna percent offer for sale hai, so that I understand the intent of the organization in bringing out an idea. Now, this is 100% offer for sale issue, right? So, जो existing investors हैं, they want to sell their shares to new shareholders, and the new shareholders are retail shareholders जो कि 15,000 20,000 रुपए में invest करें, right? So इन लोगों का अब अपने को समझना रहेगा. This is the context that we have now, that okay, they are doing an offer for sale. Now we'll have to understand why they're doing that, right? Why they're not doing a fresh issue. And when there is a offer for sale, who is the selling shareholder? Is it the promoter? Is it only the investors who had backed them, a private equity company or a VC arm that had backed them and now want an exit? What is the reason and who are selling? So when we look at this, the name of the shareholders and all of that, you will also find that they have to mention the type of the shareholder, right? So you will see Rajiv Samant, who is also the CEO and MD of the company, the promoter selling shareholder. He's selling off 11 lakh shares, and his average cost of acquisition of each share is about 41 bucks, right? And then there are investors selling shareholders who are probably mostly institutional investors who had put in some money into the company and now are looking to exit, right? And we can talk about, what are the signs when you can figure out that, okay, this is the time when they can exit and all of that. And then you're seeing other selling shareholders also, right? So overall, they're planning to sell 2.5 crores shares, right? Now, why do you see this total offer size and this offer for sale ka rupees kitna million utha raha hai, and price per share also you will not find anywhere? Why is that? Because this is a draft red herring prospectus. They have not yet priced the issue. They have not come out with a price base cap or a top cap for this, right? So that's why you see that there is no mention of a price per share, and that's why we were saying when we started off that we can also try and figure out किस price point पे आना चाहिए या fair value क्या होना चाहिए, right? So this is the first page, and these are the important things to look here, and this is important to get used to these names also, Rajiv Samant and all of that, so that it's easier whenever you're going through these documents. It's easier for you to recall that, okay, who was Rajiv, who was Ruta and all of that, right? Now, these are general risks and all. You can skip reading these. You can, if you're reading it for the first time, it's recommended. You can go through it very quickly. Otherwise, you can skip this. Usually, an IPO is led by book running lead managers, right? So these are the book running lead managers. Basically, these are the people who are responsible for taking this IPO to market, to help this company come out with an IPO, and to drive the relevant relationships and all of that. Mostly these are investment bankers, and sometimes there are these folks who are custodians and all of that also. They just help the company manage the IPO better, right? And these book running lead managers are responsible for coming up with the price, valuing the company and all of that. तो ये BRLM का काम होता है, इसको अपन शॉर्ट में BRLM कहते हैं, ठीक है? And okay, so these are just the disclosures that I said, right? That they have. So paper mein, whenever you'll read about a IPO coming out, right, it will be in this format that you will see, right? Written in gibberish and a lot of jargon and not very eye-pleasing thing. और आपको ध्यान से पढ़ते पढ़ते समझ में आएगा कि अच्छा यहाँ पे कुछ लिखा हुआ है up to 121 equity and up to blah 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 equity shares aggregating to XYZ million, and individual names आएंगे, आप फिर total करोगे. They've just made this a better way of disclosing, and I think SEBI has mandated that you create a table if there are multiple people, and यहाँ पे easy हो जाता है देखना आपको कि किसका कितना क्या है. ठीक है, so these first two pages were important. First page was important to just understand the absolute base information and get context about this IPO, which is mostly an offer for sale. There is no fresh issue. So what we already know is that probably this company is not looking at expanding operations, right? This is something that we can assume now. Let's move ahead. This is the table of contents, and we'll talk about this a bit. इसमें मैंने जो हाईलाइट कर रखा है, these are the most important aspects, parts of the whole. Yeah, let's come on to the different sections of the draft red herring prospectus. There is a general section where you have the definitions, abbreviations, where they call out that hey, this is a forward-looking statement, and these are opinions, not statement of facts in some cases, and that their research data and all of that is derivative from so and so reports and all of that. So ये सारे disclaimer रहते हैं, and there is a summary of the offer document also, which we just went through, ऊपर भी वो नीचे भी similar way में ही summarize करता है. Then they talk about the risk factors overall entailing this particular IPO, and section 3 is about what is the offer, summary of the financial statement, general information, capital structure क्या है, क्यों कर रहे हैं वो लोग, offer क्यों लेकर आ रहे हैं, and offer price का basis क्या है, not be a big price, यहाँ पे फिक्स नहीं है, बट फिर भी अपने को थोड़ा थोड़ा बेसिस देखने मिलेगा इन टर्म्स ऑफ कंपटीशन का पी रेशियो क्या है, आरओई क्या है, आरओसी क्या है, बुक वैल्यू क्या है, ऑल दैट. स्पेशल टैक्स बेनिफिट्स अगर कुछ होते हैं तो यहाँ पे एनलिस्टेड होते हैं स्टेटमेंट ऑफ स्पेशल टैक्स बेनिफिट्स में. नाउ कम्स द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट ऑफ द होल DRHP, which has the maximum information. So if you are optimizing on insights per minute of time spent on reading the prospectus, this is the section that you have to focus on, right? And this is the section that you have to absorb really, really well. So industry overview about the business, what are the regulations, which can get a bit boring. So you can just look at it very quickly because our business and industry overview mein already discuss usually hota hai. And then if you want to read about the history of the company, you can look at history and certain corporate matters. If there have been certain changes in the CEO and all of that, that comes under this section. Then they talk about the team. Our management is about the team, the CEO, CFO, COO, how many people are there in their team, how many people have they employed and all of that. Then promoter and promoter group, that who are the promoters of the company, unka background kya hai, and the promoter group mein kaun hai, is it a corporate entity or an individual, what is their experience, what is their expertise, how does their network look like, and if the entity already has some group companies who probably they have invested in or who has invested in them, so उनके बारे में भी यहाँ पे disclosure रहता है. And then what is their dividend policy in general, which is not a very important thing to read about. You can just look at the cash flow statements and understand कि dividends कैसे दे रहा है, pattern. Then comes the financial information, where it is a complete, so like you find in an annual report, right? The last section of the annual report about everything about the company, kitna loan hai, profit statement, profit and loss statement, balance sheet, cash flow, and management discussion and analysis also, which is one of the most important things that you read in an annual report. Here it becomes the third, fourth most important thing that you will read, because industry overview and our business, you will cover most of the things already. So that's about the financial information wala section. This is probably the second most important section after the first about our company section. And then there are legal and other information in terms of the offer structure, offer procedure and all of that, which are not at all relevant. And I usually skip this एकदम random, right? Because everything will get covered ऊपर, जो भी आपको धंधे के बारे में समझना है, business के बारे में समझना है, and नीचे जो रह जाएगा, that will just be about the legalities of it and how they're going to do it and procedural stuff. And ये सारा तो because I've worked on a couple of IPOs का documentation also, I know that it's just a copy paste from other IPO documents. Nobody pays attention to this, right? वो बस नाम वगैरह, date वगैरह change कर देते. So this is the basic structure of a DRHP, and you can already see कितना detailed होगा अगर वो 450 pages में सिर्फ इस company के बारे में ही बात कर रहा है. It's a book about an industry, and you can imagine the plethora of knowledge that this book will have. Yeah. So guys, you can see that we have read थोड़ा बहुत highlight वगैरह किया हुआ है ताकि आपको लगे कि हमने पढ़ा है, ऐसे बिना पढ़े नहीं आए. And I'll start talking about first of all the alcohol industry in general, in India, abroad also. And we'll come to a segment that's the alcohol segment को alco-beverages usually बोलते हैं, because alcohol के industrial applications भी हैं. यहाँ पे हम सिर्फ consumable वाला aspect को cover कर रहे हैं. So alco-beverages पे we will focus. Within alco-beverages also there are two types of alco-beverage, where the alcohol content is very high and where there is a low alcohol content, right? So low alco-beverages and high alco-beverages, ऐसे right, usually we say. Now the trend across the world has been that spirits usually, that is other than beer and wine, Indian made Indian liquor, Indian made foreign liquor, at least Indian context में जब बात करें, or other liquors, which are spirits in nature, those have a dominance, and wine and beer take a backseat. In India, the scenario is completely in the favor of spirits, especially Desi Daru, which is country liquor, and beer and wine have a very small share in the Indian market, right? So world का कैसा दिखता है per capita alcohol consumption? It is about 6.6 liters of pure alcohol per year, age 15 and above. And the current estimate is also for 2021 was around 4.8 liters, the recorded alcohol per capita consumption. Alcohol, pure alcohol bolna matlab, whenever you will have a drink, right, there you will find that it's written either it has a 4% alcohol or an 8% alcohol, 12% alcohol. So it's always blended with something, right? When they say 6.6 liters of pure alcohol, they mean that 6.6 divided by 4% ka jitna beverage pee liya hoga, right? So these are some charts and all also that you can find that that helps you understand, okay, what is the industry like. You get to understand jargons in the industry, like what is recorded, what is unrecorded. So there are probably scenarios where they can't record. Yeah, there are statistical blind spots for them to understand that what are the non-recorded spaces, right? तो वो बोल रहा है कि टोटल वर्ल्ड का शायद 6.6 होगा, रिकॉर्डेड डेफिनेटली इज 4.8, राइट? सो उतना सा मार्जिन ऑफ एरर लेके चलते हैं. Now, wine consumption is almost equivalent to spirits in actual liters of sales. WHO के हिसाब से contribution of alcoholic beverages में wine का, because why are they focusing on wine? Because Sula Vineyards is a wine first company. It's a wine company only. वो wines ही बनाता है, right? That's why this whole DRHP will focus on the wine industry more. इसमें आपको दिखा रहा है 8.6% से 11.7% हो गया, and 13.5% ऑलमोस्ट होने वाला है. So basically this shows that at a world level this is on a increasing trend, right? That this wine space is increasing. So that's the context that we get. Now look at the per capita consumption of alco-beverages. Spirits are 5.39%. India mein this is like 90%. Beer is 32%, right? Wine is 5. Is this percentage or is this, sorry, I'm so sorry, this is liters. वही मैं confuse हो गया कि ये liters है या percentage है.
Yeah, left side में percentage है.
हाँ, correct. So you will see here, जैसे हम लोग बोल रहे थे, spirits का contribution बहुत ज़्यादा high है. तो spirits का contribution high है, but liter consumption, per capita liter consumption is a bit on the lower side, right? Beer का contribution to alcohol consumption, pure alcohol form is high, second, but यहाँ पे when you look at per capita consumption, it's very high. So probably more people prefer beer, right? So ये मोटा-मोटा हम लोगों को understanding मिला इससे. We'll move on very quickly to how this looks like India के context में, right? So India is one of the leading spirits market, but other, so ये बाकी spaces के बारे में आपको बार-बार बेचने की कोशिश करेंगे, right? This whole DRHP will try to sell that wines are also a growing market. Our job as somebody who's reading this is to be conscious of the fact that is it really a growing market, or is it just trying to sell what it is supposed to sell, and should we do a secondary research also and figure out that, hey, whether wine as an industry is really growing or not. And we'll talk about all of the contributing factors to the growth also, the tailwinds as we call it, and what are the headwinds for the sector. So as we move along, so you can see here India is predominantly a spirits market with 90% of alcohol consumed in the form of spirits, right? Per capita consumption वगैरह के बारे में भी यहाँ पर लिखा हुआ है. And guys, this is free to download from the SEBI's website. So it is not that I will get access to it because I've paid something for it. It is 100% free for anybody to download, read, sit and analyze and do whatever with it, right? So you can just go to the website and just download it very quickly if you're curious कि अच्छा मुझे और भी देखना है, बहुत सारी चीजें समझनी है इसके बारे में. You can just download it and start reading it top to bottom. Now India with its share of low alcoholic beverages. Low alcoholic beverages कौन से हो गए? Beer, wines and all of these, right? Where the alcohol content is lower, is close to 8%, but it is at a very low base, right? Why is it at a lower base? Can anybody think of a reason why India में spirits ज़्यादा है, wines का consumption कम है? Anybody can come up with that answer? Very simple reason. You can raise your hand or you can type it up.
Wine is more expensive, right?
Correct, absolutely. So India is a low-income country already, right? So low-income country है तो वो spend उतना ज़्यादा नहीं कर सकते हैं wine. Plus India has a low literacy rate. Wine is consumed by people who understand wine, right? and not everybody will understand wine. Plus, there is that element of having wine in a restaurant or with food and all of that. And there's only a small percentage of our population that can afford to eat in a restaurant. So that's why penetration has been super low. And that's why these other spirits and country liquors and all of that, because they are much cheaper and they give a high much faster, they are preferred over wine. So great. Now wine consumption is super low in India, and I wrote about this on a post as well. If you guys can recall, that per capita consumption of wine is only 100 ml in India, right? Vis-a-vis other countries like China and all, which have a 1.3 liter, right, consumption, 1300 ml per capita. And the contribution of overall wine to alcohol in India is 1% against world average of 13%, right? So according to them, there is a 13x potential. And if you look at Europe, where wine kind of originated, or it's very popular and a part of their culture, their lifestyle, there it can go as high as 30%, especially in Italy and some of these countries, right? But India में अभी भी 100 ml, and we'll come to how China का भी expand हुआ. यहाँ पे आप देखोगे, when you look at India and China, even the contribution of wine to overall alcohol is close to only 3% in China also. China's per capita consumption of wine is more than 50 times that of India. And guys, China is the largest producer, consumer, and importer of wine, all three. And that has happened in the last 30 to 50 years, approx, right? So you will see that they were at 170 ml in 1980. And after that whole boom happened for them, they went to a liter in 2000. And now I think they are at 1300 or something like that, right? And their GDP or their per capita income also expanded from this to this, 195 to 960. We are now at a 22,000, we are at 2000 or 2100 kind of a per capita. But still हमारा wine का consumption उतना ज़्यादा नहीं बढ़ा हुआ है. Now, the current per capita consumption of wine is at close to 25 milliliters, is the lowest among top economies in the world, but is one of the fastest growing in the world. And this is growing at 18% in value, Indian market. So they're saying that the market is growing very fast and it is under-penetrated. There is the room for a lot of growth in this market, a 13x growth when you compare it to a world average. But we'll also look at the cultural context and whether this makes sense in India and whether it will ever grow in India or not. And those will be mostly my opinion and Rajat's opinion for that matter. Nothing will be written in stone. But yeah, we have our philosophies around whether it will go off in India or not. All these charts and all you can look at contribution of alcohol 100% के basis पे spirits का कितना, beer का कितना, wine and all का कितना. So when you look at Italy and all these European states, you will find the graph higher for the wine segment, right? The green depicts the wine segment, and you will look at spirits to be lower. But when you come to emerging economies like a China or a Brazil and in India, you will see that spirits are much higher. India में तो 92% spirits, and wine is like 0.1% of the total market in India. Right, so you'll see US वगैरह में beer का popularity है, Germany में, South Africa में, and a lot of it has also to do whether some of these things are allowed to be marketed or not by these economies. That also plays a major role. We'll come to all of this, but मैं बस बता देना चाहता हूँ आपको ताकि context रहे. And you can see look at this chart and you see how we rank in terms of our per capita alco-beverage consumption as per alcohol concentration in terms of liters, and we are very low. Makes me feel good also somehow, because there's a lot of cultural context around this, right? And probably we should add other types like bhang and all to this, which is not here, which will take this number a bit higher, maybe in at least some days of the year. So that's about it, guys. You can just look at this. You can take a screenshot also if you want, and I can share this with you. All of the marked areas and all that you want, I can share this document with you. Not a problem. Let's move on. Indian alco-beverage industry. अभी तक वो थोड़ा world के बारे में बता रहा था, इंडिया को world से compare कर रहा था. Now it will look a bit inwards into the India का alco-beverage industry, and it will keep repeating all of those points that India में कितना under penetration of wine है, कितना under penetration of beer है, and spirits का contribution कितना ज़्यादा higher है. And see, the percentage of world population that is drinking is close to 41%, projected to stabilize at 40% in 2025. India's percentage of drink population is projected to be close to 33% and will move to 39% till by 2025, which is a good enough jump. 6% plus the delta is also increasing. The population base itself is also increasing. We are estimated at more than 1 billion cases per annum. In 2020, we consumed more than 1 billion cases of alcohol, right? And this is probably dominated by spirits, right? And that growth rate and all also they've mentioned that 12% of growth and all that. India has been dominated by high alcohol content spirits. So because education is not there, because the lower income prefers all of these liquors, country liquors and all, you will see India ka skewed hai itna zyada data. As soon as people get educated, and especially when they're working in an MNC or something like that, they start going out to restaurants and all that. Unka lifestyle orbit shift ho jata hai lifestyle ka, and they start consuming thoda pricier stuff and thoda premium stuff, and start consuming low alcohol content wala spirits, and becomes more casual and more social than the need to get a high out of that drink, right? The purpose to drink kind of changes. So that's how the industry is shaped in India. And you can look at the alco-beverage consumption in million cases and the growth rate that it has seen over a period of time. So 2010 से beer, spirits, wine का तो वो green कहीं दिख भी नहीं रहा है, right? इतना छोटा है कि वो बाहर में यहाँ पे कहीं पे दिख भी नहीं रहा है. So beer and spirits have dominated. Beer has grown. If you look at the normal trend, beer has grown a bit. 2020 and 2021 mein, because restaurants and all were closed. That's why you see that there has been a dip, but then it has come back to normal. It is coming back to normal, and probably it will hit normalcy by 2025. Right. Now we look at the CAGR of wine, spirits, and beer. And what I found interesting was that wine and beer will almost grow at the same pace, right? So, and beer is a larger market than wine, right? So higher mass with similar acceleration. So probably a better bet would be to figure out a beer company and probably bet on it rather than betting on a wine company. But we can look at the details also in terms of the pricing and all of that to figure out whether a wine industry, investing in the wine industry right now makes sense or not. The alco-beverage market in INR crores and USD $1 billion, that's growing to this by 2025, $42.8 billion by 2025 is what the market is projected at. And I'll tell you, out of this, only $400 million is the wine market, right? So very small, very niche, as we call it, right? And limited players also. A top 3 players in this market, which is led by Sula, controls 80% market share, right? So top 3 players have 80% market share. Sula being number 1, Fratelli being number 2, and number 3 is Grover Zampa. And guys, I am not a drinker. I have only done a deep dive into this. And ये सारे नेम मुझे वहीं से पता चले. मुझे पता भी नहीं था कि इतना ज़्यादा market and इतने ज़्यादा nuances भी. Very, very interesting industry, but we'll come to all of those things about how. Got it. So wines are getting popular as availability of wine improves. And they're usually the premium food and drink wala market पे focus है उन लोगों का. Premiumization has been a growing theme for them. Premiumization से मतलब कि they're creating better value prop, better products and targeting that rich segment only, metro cities only, not even tier 1 cities. It has not even penetrated into tier 1. It's mostly in metro cities only, and now trickling down into tier 1, tier 2. Tier 2 तो दूर दूर तक नहीं है, tier 1 cities. Indian wines industry is growing at a bigger pace, 18.3% by value, but it's a small mass with an equal acceleration as the beer industry. And IMFL market, the Indian made foreign liquor market, which is 68% of the total alcohol wala market, that's growing by 10.5%, right? And domestic wines are reasonably priced, 400, 700, 900 ke buckets mein, they're usually available, and there are premium versions also of 2100, 3000 and all of that. So that's mostly यहाँ पे जो भी important information था यही था, trying to deliver that same thing that wine is a growing market, it's a niche market and it's growing faster than other markets, but overall the penetration is super low. And then they'll try and convince you in terms of what are the tailwinds being what is pushing the industry forward, and what are the headwinds that's stopping the industry. Cases and volumes के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं. 18% when they say that value में बढ़ेगा, and when they say 14% volume में बढ़ेगा, this tells me intuitively that pricing power is a game here, right? That if you have created a dominant brand in the space, then you will start charging a premium for that brand, and you'll keep driving that premium higher, and that's why the industry will grow 18% in value terms, but only 14% in volume terms. लोग ज़्यादा नहीं पीने लगेंगे, but लोग same पीने के लिए ज़्यादा पैसे देने लगेंगे, right? I hope that makes it clear a bit. मोटा just trying to understand this in a way so that you get a grasp of the industry also while looking at the numbers, and you can interpret these numbers also, right? That's much more important than being able to ratify numbers and being able to probably quote them somewhere. Now, contribution of alco-beverages in consumption as per alcohol concentration, all of that is again here. India में wine तो 0% पे ही है almost. 59% is spirits, 41% is beer as per the alcohol concentration that drink. ठीक है. Indian के market का कितने cases बिक रहे हैं and all of that. As Rajat said, one case has 12 bottles with 750 ml per bottle. Key players in India, who are the key players? Spirits में Diageo है, growing very slow. Pernod Ricard and Radico Khaitanah growing relatively faster. United Breweries is there in the beer market. Bira 91 is growing very, very fast. That's why it's highlighted, not because somebody likes this, but only because this is growing very, very fast. And wine में Sula is the number one player. Grover Zampa is the third player. Fratelli is the second player in terms of revenue now. But Grover Zampa is much older and has more varieties of wine. So probably that's why it comes in the second place. Let's look at the trends in the alco-beverage industry overall, and then we will talk specifically about the wine industry, and there will obviously be overlaps. Now, for folks who are still thinking, यार Sula का क्या है, इसमें Sula का कितना है, क्या है? Let me share some numbers about Sula so that we know that Sula is doing how. And Sula right now has 52% market share, right, in the wine space. So it is clearly a market leader and it's dominating the market. It is a company based out of Nashik, Mumbai, Maharashtra. And they have these vineyards there. They have their 4 vineyards, Kudka vineyards, and 2 are leased properties. And they operate out of these places only. Vineyards क्या होते हैं जहाँ पे आप grapes grow करते हो to make wine. So वो पूरा process भी अपन देखेंगे of making wine so that we can dive deeper into the cost structures and what makes this industry tick and what are the relevant factors to look at in this industry. A lot of people ask me, यार ये वाला industry है like banking industry है तो what are the numbers that I should look at? If it is a food and beverage industry or if it is a say Zomato kind of a company, what are the metrics, operational metrics and all that I should look at? When you read the red herring prospectus, draft red herring prospectus, you will automatically get an intuitive understanding of what are the right metrics to look at in any particular industry, right? It gives you that kind of a context and it gives you that kind of a background. Plus, you will do it much more confidently because you would have gone through all of those facts and figures, right? And आज हम लोग जितना ड्राइव करेंगे हम लोग ट्राई करेंगे इंटरप्रिटेशन पे फोकस ऑन. I don't want folks out of here going out and telling people that India 52% is by Sula and all of that. I want you to go out there and be able to talk about the wine industry to anybody. And whenever you find a new information that comes in about the industry, you can make an assessment on your own whether that is a good thing that is going to happen for the industry or is it a bad thing that's going to happen for the industry. Whenever a new announcement is made by a company, whether वो चलेगा उस कंपनी का प्रोडक्ट या वो नहीं चलेगा, वो टैंक कर जाएगा, चाहे मीडिया में कोई कितना भी प्यार से उसको दिखा रहा. That is the objective of us doing this, right? So यहाँ पे I don't want you to become masters in understanding numbers, but I want you to become masters in understanding business, right? तो उसी पे हम लोग ज़्यादा फोकस करेंगे. And in terms of revenue, guys, coming back to Sula, revenue wise 456 crore revenue बनाया Sula ने, 52 crores profit बनाया इस साल Sula ने. Last year it had made a 3 crore profit. उसके पहले it had made a 15 crore loss, and it had made a revenue of 421 crores and 523 crores before that. You will see all of these companies का revenue tipping a bit and then taking off again because of that effect of pandemic. हरेका होटल रेस्टोरेंट्स एंड ऑल में जो भी इनका contribution था business जो आता था बहुत टाइम तक नहीं आया. That's why you'll see a dip in their revenues, right? And we'll also talk about how the revenue mix is shifting. So it has multiple streams of revenue, right? How is the revenue mix shifting and how does it have an impact on the margins of the company, which can give you a picture कि यार अगर ये इंसान इस जगह पे invest करता है efforts या money, then probably this can become a much more profitable company. It can improve its margin and all that, which can at the end of the day probably make you better consultants or just people who understand business better. So we'll come to the next part, where we'll talk about the key trends in the alco-beverage industry. We're still not talking about specific wine. We're still on the alco-beverage. थोड़ा सा जो ऊपर है इसके, right? And यहाँ पे आप लोग बताओ यार कि जैसे प्रीमियमाइजेशन के बारे में तो मैंने बात किया, आपके हिसाब से what is contributing to the growth of this industry? And I want at least 2 to 3 inputs from you all. Here, probably these are the 3-4 factors that's contributing to the growth of the alco-beverage market. Very normal ones. और हिंदी में बोलो अगर हिंदी में समझ में आता है, whichever language, just use your language आराम से, feel free. Anybody?
I think एक तो मिडिल क्लास इनकम इंक्रीज हो रही है, एक वो फैक्टर रहेगा.
Absolutely. और सोचो और क्या इंक्रीज कर सकता है. We'll just brainstorm. Maybe they're not even the reasons. Let's just brainstorm on what can make the alcohol industry grow faster in value terms, not volume terms, value terms. We'll discuss that. Yes, Joseph.
Would be like how it's evident in the actual industry, the adaptation of the Western culture, like how it's not only happening.
Yes, absolutely.
They're doing even in terms of drinks.
Absolutely, and we call this urbanization जो हो रहा है Indian population का, and them copying the Western culture. So yes, that is one aspect. And copying भी कैसे होता है? Travel लोग जब ज़्यादा करते हैं foreign countries में, when they get exposed to a different culture, that's when they bring it back with them. So probably they're traveling more, and people traveling more to Europe may add to the growth of this industry. What else?
I think the status symbol also, like
Yes.
it is as a trendy thing. Like
Correct.
if you eat, and especially with wine is considered as, I think, higher end version of liquor.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely fair point. People want to put up their photos on Instagram and Facebook and all of that. Also not Facebook anymore, but Snapchat, Instagram probably, and improve their social status a bit maybe, and be seen as people who understand what wine is and what alcohol is and all of that. Gauri is saying drinking has become more acceptable even when it is with families. Yes, that is also a trend that we are seeing in the market, that it has become more acceptable. Fair enough, Gauri. Anything else that you think has happened? कभी किसी को यहाँ पे शर्म आई है कि ऐसे दारू दुकान पे जाके दारू लेंगे, वैसा थोड़ा सा हिचक आया हो? Probably बहुत लोगों को आता है, अगर यहाँ पर नहीं भी आया हो तो. Yes, Mahipal? Go ahead.
Yeah, when you are young, you feel a bit guilty.
Yeah, right. And that is being solved by home delivery of alcohol. A lot of companies have started that, right? So that is also contributing to the growth of alcohol industry as a whole. And then we will talk specifically about wine also. And I want some intelligent inputs to come out from you all after we have a brief discussion on the consumption pattern and all of that. कि wine कैसे grow कर रहा है? And you can think of those answers and write somewhere. अभी we'll not come to that right away. We'll come to that अभी gradually. Fair? Gauri is saying it is used as networking technique also, increase in number of walk-in stores. Yes, one of the very interesting factors is obviously social media पे भी आप बहुत ज़्यादा ये share वगैरह होते हुए देखते हो, awareness increase होती है, educate होते हैं और लोग about this about alcohols, and that's also how it is driven. Wine पे आते हैं. Yes, we'll come to wine. We were talking about the alcohol space in general right now. We'll come down to wine.
Two more points I'll like to add here. One is population increase भी होती है, which is majorly a point, and another is की legal aspect or maybe political aspect, because rice states are also there. अगर वो हट जाएंगे तो wine
Absolutely. लग जाएंगे तो degrow करने लग जाएगा अगर ट्राई स्टेट्स और बनते जाएंगे, एंड अगर वो रिलैक्स होता जाएगा पॉलिसी, देन और ज्यादा हो जाएगा. Correct. Absolutely right, Rajat. So this is what we call, guys, thinking about the supply chain, and then thinking of what could go wrong in the supply chain, or what are the bottlenecks in the supply chain, or what are problems, opportunities in the supply chain, and then figuring out, okay, this is how a particular industry can grow. There is always a consumer behavior lens to it, but nuances like the regulation, the delivery aspect and all of that that stems with something that is called the externality, which can only come when you understand the industry a bit better. And by understanding the industry, I mean you understand the value chain of the industry a bit better. Produce कौन कर रहा है, manufacture, I mean raw material कहाँ से आ रहा है, process कौन कर रहा है, package कौन कर रहा है, बेच कौन रहा है, end consumer तक कैसे जा रहा है, what are the channels through which it is going. When you think of the entire supply chain and the value chain, that's when you can think of potential solutions to growing it, or potential reasons for it not growing, both ways, and true for all industries. Now see, you will see alcohol kaise kaise बढ़ रहा है. Premiumization, COVID-19 has induced the premiumization. Consumers are opting for more expensive drinks when they are drinking at home. They are ordering at home and drinking. Small gatherings में घर पे house party करके drinking का culture बढ़ गया है. बाहर जाने का पैसा बचता है तो drink पे ज़्यादा खर्चा कर लेते हैं. And there are new channels that are coming up like home delivery and all of that. There is an increase of in-house consumption जो ऊपर भी बोला. And there's a power of brand recall for ordering home delivery from off-trade and increase in off-trade contribution. Can somebody tell me intuitively what could be on-trade sale of alcohol and what could be off-trade sale of alcohol? ऐसा intuitively कुछ समझ में आ रहा है क्या? Mostly नहीं आएगा, but फिर भी किसी को आ रहा है? नहीं आ रहा है? कोई बात नहीं. Yes, it's not off market, it's off trade. So on trade means alcohol that is sold on any platform that has a trade license, right? By platform I mean any restaurant, hotel, bar, pub, and all of these are on trade sales. And what is an off trade sale? Off trade sale is आपने home delivery करवा ली, right? That is an off trade. आपने directly liquor shop से खरीद लिया, that is an off trade. You're not going to do something else and drink. Right, so on trade and off trade में ये लोग market को bifurcate करते हैं, which is something that is unique to this industry. मैंने और किसी industry में ये terminology use होते हुए नहीं देखी है. नीचे ये बार-बार और use होगी, so I thought कि एक बार इसको clarify कर लेते हैं. Now, influence of on trade, yes, increasing preference for premium food and drink, experiences का increase हो रहा है बहुत ज़्यादा. People want to experience better food and better wine and all of these, so that's increasing and they're happy to spend more on it. The on-trade platforms like PVCLs and FDINR also serve as a medium of surrogate marketing for them. वहाँ पे इनका surrogate marketing भी होता है. Now PVCL मुझे भी लगा कि क्या होता है, FDINR मुझे भी नहीं पता क्या है, मुझे लगा FDINR ये क्या बात कर रहे हैं, but this is pubs, bars, cafes and lounges, PVCL, and FDINR is fine dining. बाकी मुझे नहीं पता, याद नहीं आ रहा, इन हाउस एंड इंडोर एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट, रेस्टोरेंट्स एंड सम अदर. तो ये बहुत jargon यूज करते हैं, and I don't know why they do that, and they have not explained this in abbreviations and all of also. So you just have to Google a lot of stuff and understand, but it's fun. So whenever you talk to an industry guy who's from the B2B space and from the alcohol space doing enterprise sales and all, you can talk to them in these jargons, right? That hey, PVCL में आपका क्या है margin? They'll instantly know that you know something about the industry, and these are very common terms for them, right? So always helps to know a bit more about the industry, and DRHP always helps you to get that jargon also, and sometimes it is important to know some jargon. Yeah, so they're saying wine category will show higher growth and all of that. Off trade का share बता रहे 79% है, 21% is on trade, but usually the brand gets built on trade. When you go out and when you are having food and they offer you a wine and they tell you about Sula or some other growers or something like that, that's when you're first tasting or interacting or trying out that product, and that's when the brand gets built, and only then you will go out and start buying that brand. Price sensitive इतने ये वाले customer नहीं होते हैं, so you can't just play on pricing that Sula की जगह if Grover Zampa is थोड़ा सस्ता, you will go for that. Probably you will not. Now, digital media and influencers have played a very, very important role. Like you guys said, social media pay, everybody has kind of become an influencer when they are drinking and putting their posts up and all of that. So that has led to a growth. And I was just I just typed Sula Vineyards on YouTube to see what kind of campaigns and all that they were doing. And I found that they were leveraging a lot of YouTube content creators, a lot of YouTube influencers to visit their vineyards, which is a very good tourism business, and we'll talk about that also, to visit their vineyards and talk about it, talk about the different rooms that they have, the different kind of wines that they're growing. And I think they have two properties called, one is called the The other one I can't recall. But yeah, so they're leveraging digital channels also a lot, which is driving a lot of sales for them for both. They have a tourism business also, which is approximately 30-35 crores of business where people are coming in and staying in their vineyards and all of that. And their manufacturing business is 340-50 crores. So 10% approximately of their business is a tourism business, right? Which is a big attractor. And that is where most people try out wine also in the first place.
So in this tourism sector, I would like to add this 5 years of wine tasting. Basically, there is where they explain all about it. So for these are the 5 years. It starts off with C, then goes on to swirl, then the next one is sniff, then it's sip, and then the last one is savor. So first you see the wine, what color it is, what's the texture, and what enjoy in terms of visually how the wine looks and feel it. Then you swirl it. So usually when they explain it on the video, they say that the wine breathes. So you have to swirl it, and then you have to sniff it. You have to smell it. Basically, what's the smell of it? You have to enjoy the essence of it. Then you move on to sip. And while sipping, they'll suggest you to slurp it a bit so that you taste it. थोड़ा सा सर करके जो जैसे चाय का हम लोग slurp करते हैं, sort of वैसे they will suggest you so that you taste it to full. And finally, they'll ask you to savor it while you consume it down the throat. So that's the art of wine tasting, as they say.
See, these researches about an industry take you to such interesting paths where you become a wine connoisseur yourself. And awesome, Rajat. I've written it down here also, guys. See, swirl, sniff, sip, savor. So, guys, next time you're drinking wine, remember Rajat. And had you been so Rajat practiced this, and he was just doing it, I say, randomly. And you should have seen him savoring water as if it is wine. मुझे लगा उसको सारा उधर ही feel आ गया wine का. So awesome, man. Thanks for that. Thanks for teaching us that. We'll come to the growth of wines now. And this is one of the most interesting aspects of it. I'll give you some inputs on wine, right? Number one, wine is premium. Wine is mostly it's low in alcohol content. So people who like to get high very quickly will not probably prefer wine. But to किसी को wine भी बहुत जल्दी चढ़ जाती है अगर ज़्यादा quantum में पी लो. And wines are preferred by women, right? Now, can somebody tell me any insight about any country where the women participation in labor force is going higher, and where the GDP is also growing higher, where wine as an alternative to high alcohol beverage could start seeing some traction other than India? Obviously, India में female population जैसे grow होगा, that will contribute to wine का growth also. But and if anybody knows India ka number also, I'll be happy to know. But any country that you can name, one of our neighbors only. Anybody can think of the name?
Is it Bangladesh?
Yes, exactly. So Bangladesh has a very high women participation in labor force, and they have a very their GDP is also increasing very fast. But so they should probably have more wine drinking people than as a percentage of the population than India. But can somebody now tell me why it will not grow there? Anybody? One very important reason.
The participation of women is more in the garment manufacturing, which is kind of low income.
Okay. Low income can be one reason, but GDP per capita is also increasing, so you can assume that their income will also rise. There is still one very important factor.
Cultural, I think.
Go deeper into it.
Religion.
Yes, absolutely.
Alcohol is
bang on point. So Muslim religion asks you to say no to alcohol very vehemently, and they do not encourage alcohol consumption. And that is why probably the wine sector will not grow in that country. It could be one of the reasons, but it's great as a brainstorming exercise to just come up with these things and think of it in a different cultural context also. Happy that we could get some interesting contexts about it. SS Lazmi 5S can be applied while investing in Sula as well. We will figure it out whether it is investable or not. And in terms of India also, guys, we're seeing that trend of there's this growing, number two biggest factor is that growing interest in wine tourism. And this is something that I used to see in Swiggy also, that people used to love going to these vineyards nearby and just walk through the process of making wine. And they've made it such a beautiful experience that you can go to these vineyards and, crush those grapes on your own, understand the whole process, probably do a couple of things on your own there. They've made it so beautiful and experiential that more and more people are trying it out, that they're going to these places and just as an experience. Probably they'll not drink or not want to drink a lot, but they're going there as an experience and at least trying it out. So Sula did a very interesting thing, and this is where I started liking Sula from a marketing perspective, was that Sula, they started off with the Sula Fest, which combines a music, food, and beverages fest, right? That there's a lot of music, there's this whole festival around music, and there's pop culture there, and good Indian cultural music also. And they do this in Nashik, and they started this in 2008, and it's an annual affair. And 2 days they just celebrate wine, music, and food. And that's where so they said that Sula Fest is widely recognized as the largest wine festival in India with more than 10,000 people in attendance in 2020. And it is one of the largest wine music festivals in Asia. And a lot of first timers taste wine here. So you're understanding how much they have to invest in growing the market, right? So market size increase करने के लिए उनको मेहनत करनी पड़ रही है अभी. Market share तो चलो capture कर लिया, but market को भी grow करना है because it's a small market, it's a niche $4 million market, right? So they need to grow this market. How will they grow this market? By acquiring more users, or by as they say, recruiting more users and getting them to drink wine. So that has taken off really well. And Sula का अच्छा खासा revenue आ रहा है, 34 crores का revenue आ रहा है per annum इससे. Their occupancy is 71%. They have 67 rooms in 2 properties, I think. 71% का occupancy है, and per room rent is 10,000. Room revenue अगर आप देखोगे per day, so it's $10,000. So that's a good business for them, and they can look at growing this as a segment altogether. Wine tourism also is unique to alco-beverage market, where wineries are allowed to sell, and this becomes where it becomes important, directly to the final consumers visiting wineries. Otherwise, it's not allowed to advertise to end consumers, other than at liquor shops and all of that, right? So यहाँ पे they can sell it directly to the consumer by inviting them. So it's a derivative customer acquisition strategy, so to say, or as we call it, surrogate acquisition strategy. Alcohol abuse as a social issue is something that keeps this lower. Beer and wine का क्यों बढ़ रहा है consumption? क्योंकि healthier and recreational बोलते हैं इसको. That these are much better than those high alcohol content वाला spirits that we consume. Great. Moving on to the regulatory overview. So this talks about the regulations that are there. Now, India ka market, the alcohol market, is highly regulated market. It's not a very lax market, right? And in this highly regulated market, you'll see that internationally policy and status क्या है. जैसे written national policy है क्या, कोई हमारा action plan है around wine or alco-beverages or all of that? There is no such thing. But are there excise taxes and all of that? Yes, they are there. Is there a national support for community action in all of these situations where people become alcoholics and all of that? There's no national level पे कुछ भी अभी created नहीं है, but there are monitoring systems and all of that, right? So this is just a snapshot of the policy structure in India right now. ये सारे prohibition के बारे में बात कर रहा है, where you will see the trend of prohibition in the country, which is kind of a bottleneck in terms of the growth of these products. Is that गुजरात में 1960s से ban है, बिहार में 2016 से है, नागालैंड में है, नॉर्थ ईस्ट में बहुत सारे states में it has been under prohibition, complete prohibition. Now they have opened up in some states. All 5 states in South India have a ban on country liquor, but interestingly, Karnataka and Maharashtra have the highest contribution to the sale of wines in the country, right? When you look at only wine, it's Maharashtra and Bangalore, Karnataka, sorry, are the top producers as well as consumers. Drinking age and all of that, the restriction hai country mein, and all of these create a bottleneck to the growth, right? Now let's jump to other than the regulatory stuff and all of that, in terms of how does the industry look like in Indian context, especially wine market. So consumption wise, retail off trade ka consumption was 5% in 2000, On trade were 95%. Just look at this shift that has happened. It's a crazy shift. 5% is 75% is now off trade, and only 25% is on trade. Some of it has to do with lockdown and all also. But look at this off trade. Like that is basically people are consuming more at home or off locations other consumption बढ़ रहा है, which gives you an interesting insight that probably instead of you can use this as a marketing channel to create a brand to feed into this demand. And to feed into this demand, you can have those online distribution channels, probably a D2C brand, do surrogate advertising and all of that, right? And leverage this wala population. Plus, you'll have to have a very deep retail distributor network also. In terms of domestic, it was 0 in 2000. Thanks to Sula and all of these folks. At least हमारा यहाँ पे थोड़ा सा import bill कम हुआ है, where 84% is now in-house consumption and 16% is only imported consumption. And this is wine only, right? So this market has, thanks to these players like Grover Zampa and these visionaries, if you can call them that, Sula and all of these folks, they brought this market to India, and they said that yes, we will do it in India, from India, and we will reduce our import dependence at least on this. Now, installed agri base playing a crucial role in wine is absolutely true. So, guys, there are two types of grapes. There is normal grape and there is a wine grape. Wine grape is a bit more premium, and it has lesser, number of people producing it in India. Overall, also India may come produce hota hai. As I said, China is the top leading country in terms of production of wine, production of grapes also, and hence production of wine and consumption of wine also. So this is the trend, how it looks like in terms of the total grapes plus wine grapes that get produced. Wine grapes are usually much more premium, juicier hote hain, etc., etc. Plus they grow on specific type of soils only. And Karnataka and Maharashtra ka jo soil hai that promotes the best growth of these grapes. And usually the grape has a 2-year cycle from when it grows to it becoming ripe and being used in making wine. It's a big journey, right? So only very specific areas में इसको उगाया जा सकता है, and that's why probably the market is also smaller. Plus favorable policies भी Maharashtra and Karnataka में for these folks. So see, in Maharashtra and Karnataka, you have 90% wine grapes, which are high quality grapes. Karnataka mein still there are total grapes 80%, wine grapes are only 7%, right? We'll move on. Maharashtra has liberalized in January 22. They liberalized the policies. Existing wine policy was valid till 2021, and now they have more progressive laws and all of that. This talks about the history, the dominance of wine companies in India, bringing prominence to the wine industry. The market size here is what it gets interesting. 14% volume terms mein badhega market. They're talking about the market size in terms of number of cases, million cases. Somewhere around 2.5 or 2 million right now, and will grow to 3.4 million cases by 2025. And they're expecting a CAGR of 14%. Abhi tak ka CAGR 5.5% tha. I have no idea of this increased projection, other than that they're projecting more people to get jobs. They're projecting 10 to 12 million people to get job, and the GDP also to grow at an 8% approximately over this time, which will at the end of the day contribute to this industry also growing, right? So that was very quickly about how this industry looks like. Indian wine market is projected to reach 3,200 crores, as we said. I think would come to $400 million. I can be wrong, but yeah, that's how big this industry is right now. Looking to grow at 20% in terms of the value, overall total value. To be specific, 18%, 18.3%, but starting. Now it is expected to grow back to pre-pandemic level, and all of that's very obvious and normal stuff that's here. Yeah, import and domestic may interesting है that import will also grow a bit, but the domestic will grow exponentially is what they're projecting. So this is something interesting to look at, right? And if you assume that okay, this company will still have 50% market share, right? That this company will enjoy 50% market share. So you're looking at a 1,600 crores top line by 2025, which is like 3 years away. And right now they are at a 400 crores top line. So a 4x growth in 3 years is what we can expect if we are to trust these numbers. The company is making a PAT of 10% right now. On 400 crores, it's making a 40 crores of profit और 450 crores पे 50 crore का profit, 11% I think PAT. So you can assume that this will grow, the PAT will grow to a 160, 170 crore number. And gross profit margins are increasing. We'll also talk about these trends. But overall, gross profit margins are also increasing. So you can expect the net profit to also, in percentage terms, be higher. Yes, Aishit, you have a question. What are inhibiting? What are stopping the growth? Spirits still is the top choice. Beer is growing very, very fast, and it has a mass and the similar kind of growth rate. So it will keep capturing more people, because people का पीने का capacity तो same रहेगा. वो क्या पी रहे हैं, that can differ. If they are drinking beer, probably they'll not drink a wine in the same sitting. India में cocktail consumption is very, very high, right? So cocktails people are preferring. तो उसमें wine का amount जो use होता है वो थोड़ा कम use होता है, right? So that's why the volume will not increase a lot. There is limited understanding of wine. Obviously, as we said, right, that it requires that whole 5S samajna. Half of the people here wouldn't have known all of those 5S's. Plus, people find it intimidating or overwhelming also. That whether will I be able to order the right kind of wine also with the right kind of food, because that's the whole another story, right? That's a whole another science, that what kind of wine goes with what kind of food. So whether we'll be able to crack that, and it's too much of pressure on the brain. अभी तक किसी ने ऐप बनाया नहीं है that can recommend कि अच्छा ये खाना बनाया होगा, मैंने ढूंढा नहीं है, probably बनाया भी होगा कि ये टाइप का खाना खा रहे तो ये टाइप का वाइन ऑर्डर करना चाहिए. But yeah, so limited understanding of wines is one of the challenges in the industry.
And in, I would like to add here, Italy में और France में, because wine supporting cuisine is a lot over there ना, तो वहाँ पे consumption इस वजह से high भी है.
Correct, absolutely. Pricing remains a challenge. Premium ही ज़्यादा बिक रहा है. People अगर same rate पे भी है premium wine, तो भी लोग spirits खरीद रहे हैं इंडिया में. That is a trend, right? That we are seeing now. Beer अगर priced है as wine equal भी, तो भी beer लोग ज़्यादा prefer कर रहे हैं for some reason, right? So that is a trend that's worrying, and that's why I highlighted it. Handling and storage of wine, as I said, we'll come to the wine ka value chain also. You will get to understand this a bit better. And here they are analyzing the whole value chain. Handling and storage of wines, basically, I told you, right? Those oak containers, and sometimes it gets spoiled a lot. The wines का cork अगर different लग जाता है, cork का material भी अगर सही नहीं होता है, तो wine खराब हो जाती है. So all of those things about handling and storage of wines is very, very important, and it's costly also to hire people who understand this, right? Because it is a niche. So your employee costs also go up. In terms of the value chain, fastest growing in country in grape production, India hai. Second only to China hai. 140,000 hectares of grape farms hai India mein. Less than 2% of grape farms are cultivating wine grapes. So there is opportunity for them also to increase the area, the crop per hectare जो crop grow हो रहा है वो ज़्यादा और grow कर सकते हैं. I want to come to, before I get into the barriers to entry, I want to come to the this thing, the value chain, how the whole process of making a wine looks like. I'll take you guys to page 14, 215 ऐसा कुछ था शायद. I don't remember. Rajat, can you look at एक बार check करना ना? I'm sorry guys, I can't find the page.
214 सर्च करना एक बार. Page number 214.
नहीं आया यार इसमें.
थोड़ा सा ऊपर, 3 पेज ऊपर. You are on 217.
ये रहा. कुछ तो गड़बड़ है नंबरिंग में है. This is 210. Yeah. So guys, if you look at this chart, right, this is how the wine production looks like, and this is specifically to Sula, but industry में भी ऐसा ही होता है, right? So you harvest, and the harvest period, this is a very important thing to note here, which will help us analyze the financial statements also better, is that the harvest period is December to March, which is a 4-month window, and this happens. So इनको 2 years लगता है grapes को grow होने में, right? From seeding to growing into a ripe enough this thing. तो इसको उतना ज़्यादा time लगता है, right? And you can only do this in this 4-month का short span of time. The harvesting happens in this 4-month का short span of time. So all of the wines for the subsequent financial year are made in this period. So what will happen as on March 31st March 2022, 21, 20, when they're closing their books, in their books they will have a lot of inventory, क्योंकि उनको वाइन वहीं पे 4 महीने में हार्वेस्ट करके बना के रखना पड़ता है, एंड फिर वो एज होता है वाइन, राइट? एंड देन दे रिलीज इट इनटू द मार्केट. So they have to predict the demand upfront. So here you will intuitively understand that inventory losses can be very high, and that they have to keep a lot of inventory. So their storage costs and all of that will also be very high, handling cost, storage cost. Now the harvest occurs for this particular company at 4 owned and 2 leased facilities, as we discussed that they have 4 vineyards of their own and there are 2 leased facilities where they grow red, white and rosé wine. Red wine kya hota hai? Where grape ka color mixes with the juice. White wine is what? Where the grape ka color is not mixed, it's taken out, the flesh is taken out and there's only juice. Rosé में थोड़ा सा fermentation के time पे touch हो जाता है उसका wine के skin का. Sorry, grape ke skin ka. Now then the blending happens, big blenders mein, and if anybody has seen that fermentation process probably in their audits or something, it smells pathetic. You will probably behosh ho jaoge agar aapne usko soong liya. You will see aging. Over 90% of our wines are aged in stainless steel tanks. Only few elite wines are aged in barrels. They are elite category. They store it in aged they age it in barrels. Oak barrels hote hain wo bhi. Other than that, mostly it is in stainless steel this thing. Now stabilization filtration wines are heat and cold stabilized as well as filtered prior to bottling. Then bottling happens, that occurs at 3 owned facilities and 2 in Maharashtra and 1 in Karnataka, and that happens throughout the year as per the sales requirement. So bottling they do as and when, वो ऐसा sales के हिसाब से month on month release कर सकते हैं अपना production, but starting में उनको plan करना पड़ता है कि भाई इतना अपने को produce करना है, and then they dispatch. That's pretty straightforward. So I hope you got an idea of the value chain, the supply chain, and the problems in the supply chain. Also here you will intuitively understand some things, that working capital बहुत block होगा upfront, right? That cost will go high. That you have to have a lot of increase a lot of storage costs and all that. And at the end of the day, these become barriers to entry. So we were at that stage, right, where we were going to talk about the barriers to entry. तो मुझे लगा कि पहले मैं ये बताता हूँ तो आपको खुद ही इंट्यूटिवली समझ में आएगा कि ये क्यों बैरियर्स टू एंट्री हैं इतने सारे, राइट? कौन से पेज पे बैरियर्स टू एंट्री राजा ध्यान है? ऊपर जा रहा हूँ मैं, इंडस्ट्री लैंडस्केप, ऑन ट्रेड ऑफ ट्रेड,
एक सेकंड में देखता हूँ.
या गाइस एनी क्वेश्चंस टिल देन? या यहाँ पे मिल गया मुझको. यस, बैरियर्स टू एंट्री इनटू द इंडियन वाइन मार्केट. एनी क्वेश्चंस हियर? एनीथिंग टू ऐड? Anything that you want to understand? Perfect. Chalo. Now let's come to the barriers to entry, which is very, very interesting, which plays well. When there are barriers to entry, it's good for existing companies. But if you're thinking like an entrepreneur who wants to create a vineyard or start making wine and sell it, it's bad for you because there are a lot of bottlenecks, right?
There's a question. Can backward integration by Sula in this can be helpful by SS? In terms
backward
of
integration in terms of taking up more farms that are growing wines. So they've already taken up that vineyard. And that's why this becomes a very capital intensive business where you have to buy vineyard and there's a long gestation period for maturing of a vineyard, right? The wine value chain process is very long and may take a couple of years before the wine is ready to be bottled, right? The grape wines, once planted, will require a minimum of 2 years to mature. And during this period, the wines will require intense care. So ऐसा भी नहीं कि छोड़ दिया उग रहा है, आपको बार-बार उसको cater करना पड़ेगा, care करना पड़ेगा, आदमी को लगा के रखना पड़ेगा उसको करने, right? So upfront the cost goes very, very high, right? And that is all about the backward integration. Without that, having your own vineyard becomes very difficult. So they start from there only कि हम खुद का बनाना चालू करेंगे और बेचेंगे. Trade तो पहले भी कर रहे थे import कर करके. You saw that 2000 का number versus 2020 का number, right? Where 100% was imported, but now 84% is domestic. Post harvest, it takes up to 2 years to manufacture authentic wine, right? तो 2 साल तो automatically उसका cycle चला गया. तो 2 साल तो उसको already सारे costs bear करने हैं, उसका corporate expenses है, compliance, legal and all of that. That is also not a small amount, right? Sula has employed 700 people. तो अगर 2 साल तक उसको 100-200 लोगों को भी पालना था starting में, it was very difficult and very, very highly capital intensive thing. Now, close tie-ups are needed for cultivation. So they have 12-year contracts with farmers also, because farmers need that protection. कि हम यहाँ grapes उगाने लग गए, आप हमसे लोगे नहीं वो grapes, अपने vineyard में आप वो grapes हमसे लोगे नहीं and all of that. Where will we go, right? So they have 12 years contract to ensure that farmers are remunerated. And यहाँ पे देखो आपने जो backward integration का बहुत सही point उठाया ना, it will be difficult for new players to achieve such scale, and backward integration as accomplished by existing players as Sula, Fratelli, and Growers Alpha. They've already gone backwards, and even then they have this problem. So जो नया player जिसका backward integration है वो तो फट जाएगा उसका market. Fragmented distribution chain है, because The models of different states of how you can sell in a state is also different. So I'll give you an example here. Some states allow you to sell your produce directly to a wholesaler, which is regulated by the state, and who can sell to retailers. Some states allow you to directly sell to retailers, very few. Some states say that ये मेरा ही, so state का ही एक arm है, which acts like a wholesaler. They act like a warehouse for these players. They say that ये मेरा entity ही जो distributor है, only they will distribute your produce alcohol. Then there is another model where they only warehouse this for you, and they say that as and when this is released, वो हम पूरा track करेंगे, control करेंगे on the flow of the goods at least, right? So these are different ways in which you're allowed to sell. So the distribution chain, that's why it's fragmented. You can't have one strategy for pan India level. You will have different strategies for different states or group of states that are acting similarly, right? That creates a lot of problem. Plus, with political parties changing a lot, their stance also keeps changing. कि अभी ऐसा फिर वैसा फिर वैसा. They have to keep innovating or reinventing the wheel on the distribution side. तो वहाँ sorted नहीं रहते. जैसे FMCG में तो sorted है. Super distributor को जाएगा, wholesale retailer को जाएगा, consumer को जाएगा. ज़्यादा दिमाग नहीं लगाना है FMCG में, HUL में. पर यहाँ पे बहुत दिमाग है. Expertise चाहिए, regulation to barrier. Hey, we've talked about, now we come to the financial metrics, which all of us have been waiting for, and we'll very quickly walk through this. And now, because you have so much of context, a lot of these numbers will come very intuitive to you, very easy for you to understand and grasp and digest, and it'll be like, अगर आप पहले ही numbers देखे होते, आपका दिमाग घूम रहा होता कि ये क्या है, ये क्या है.
Derive कहाँ से हो रहा है number?
Correct. So when you look at the growth, right? Sula is one of the fastest growing alco-beverage companies in India. इनको one of the fastest growing बोलना पड़ गया क्योंकि आप Fratelli wines का speed देखो just look at the pace at which they're growing, and this is gross sales, guys. So wine वाले industry में, alcohol industry में एक बहुत interesting चीज है, MRP में क्या होता है, sales price तो होता ही है, plus बहुत बड़ा लंबा चौड़ा excise duty भी रहता है.
Yes.
Right? So when they talk about gross sales, they mean both duty plus sales का value खुद का, right? अभी ये gross पे बात हो रहा है, excise duty और इसको मिला के. तो यहाँ पे आप देखोगे Fratelli wines का growth rate देखो, बस 5 year का CAGR, 40% CAGR over 5 years, beautiful growth rate, right? They've been growing like crazy, and they have not grown the capacity that they already have, right? So they were probably under capacity, and now they're moving towards more capacity utilization. Upper numbers 240 पे stagnated. So they're selling more. They're not, by not increasing capacity, which means that वो capacity को hit कर रहा है, occupancy अपना upper limit को hit करने लग रहे हैं. When that happens, you kind of become profitable because your fixed costs are fixed. As you sell incrementally, whatever the gross profit margin is, that comes directly to your that directly hits your bottom line. Correct.
2021.
Fratelli and Radico Khaitan. So sorry, only these two companies have grown, right? Sula has also declined in terms of total, right? When you look at 2020, 2021, 21,
Pandemic year.
21-22 में Sula has also grown,
Yes.
but यहाँ पे degrowth है, ठीक है? और DRHP तो एकदम ही खत्म ही हो रहा. So when you look at the net sales now, which is only the sales, not the excise duty, you will find that the growth has been slower, right? So 37.8, ऊपर 40% था, यहाँ पे 37.8. Even this guy, Radico Khaitan, has degrown. So the thought that tells you is that excise duty has grown a lot. Inka realization has not grown up. Excise duty has gone bonkers, but their growth has not gone bonkers, right? Important thing is this and this, right? These things are okay. This and this is what is important. That excise duty has grown a lot, which is showing that okay, these guys have been doing good. But overall देखोगे तो net sales इनका नहीं बढ़ा है, इसका बहुत थोड़ा सा बढ़ा है, बाकी किसी का भी नहीं बढ़ा है, right? So the industry as a whole has gone down. Pandemic की वजह से हुआ होगा. Now we come to the EBITDA margins, right? We look at the EBITDA margins and the gross margins, right? So if you look at the EBITDA growth, you see that Radico Khaitan has grown in terms of the EBITDA. You see that Sula has also grown really well in this period, right? 2020 and 2021. 21-22 maybe this has grown a lot, right? Fratelli and Grover are unlisted entities, so that's why their data is not available. ठीक है? PAT margin पे आते हैं तो Grover Zampa, Sula has improved its margins, and यहाँ पे और ज़्यादा further improve हुआ है. It has come to around 11%, and other companies have also improved margins. So overall PAT margins have grown healthier. And if you look at the key financial ratios, gross profit margins कहीं पे नहीं दिखाया क्या? नीचे आया.
नीचे है वो.
Got it. PAT margins, and then you have return on equity. कौन कितना दे रहा है? सबके सब गंदा return on equity दे रहे हैं. देख के दिमाग खराब हो जाएगा कि how is this possible? But again, as I said, this is a very capital intensive business, right? So I don't expect it to have a lot of return on equity, especially when it's just moved to profitability, started becoming profitable. Services से जब ज़्यादा amount of business आने लगे, drive होने लगे, then they start selling their own branded stuff, manufacturing and then selling their own stuff. That's when they earn more gross margins and their profitability increases, which is a trend that we are seeing. तो ये वाला आपने देखेंगे अच्छे से. ROCE is return on capital employed. What is return on capital employed? Equity plus debt. Mila ke is capital employed. Whatever you've made on this, so EBITDA is what you've made on this. Sorry, excuse my handwriting. EBITDA is what you've made on this. So EBITDA by ROCE is this percentage number on which Sula is doing well, right? So probably उसका interest cost higher रहा होगा in time पे कि debt ले रखा था उसने, उसका ROE कम होगा, right? So if they pay off all of the debt and ये पूरा का पूरा equity से होता, तो ये आपको PAT margin दिख रहा हो. I mean ये आपको return on equity दिख रहा हो. Sorry, 9.3. ठीक है. Now look at the inventory days, right? Sula, though it is increasing for Sula and it's increasing for kind of everybody, Fratelli is doing some bit better. It is still the lowest in terms of everybody in the industry, right? So inventory days indicates the average time that the company takes to turn the inventory, which also includes the goods which are in work in progress for sales. सबका एक साल के ऊपर है, तो वो पूरा एक साल का gestation period है, उसके बाद वो माल बिकना चालू होगा. Sula का सबसे fastest है इसमें, क्योंकि उसके range of products बहुत है, plus it can project and predict demand much better than other brands.
Correct, because it has that very good market share.
Correct, enjoys a very large market share. This is about different line segments में किसके कितने wines हैं, etc etc. Market outreach, Sula ने अच्छा खासा network अपना create किया है. It has 57% of all retail outlets serviced in the country में market है इसका. होरेका अपना होता है hotel, restaurant and caterers. So उस market में भी they have a lot of these reach. So they have 30 to 32 union territories and states में presence, and Fratelli has 21-23 में, Grover has 15 to 18. And how many outlets do they have? So they have like a lot of 13,000 plus outlets and 8,000 in Horeca. Retail outlets 13,000 है, Fratelli के 9,000 है, and Grover's and 3,000. Now, according to me, I also think that whoever is the largest, right, in a particular market, right, probably growing, not growing, that's a different case altogether. That company entity person always ends up making a super profit, right? As long as it can maintain this dominant position because of factors that are intrinsic and not extrinsic. Extrinsic factor क्या होता है? Demonetization हो गया, Paytm boom कर गया, जिंदाबाद, right? That was an external factor that added to the growth, fueled the growth. It was not an intrinsic factor that fueled it. But यहाँ पे अगर intrinsic factor से growth आ रहा है, market share high है, and they're earning super profits over a period of time, then it makes them formidable in that industry, that they are not going away anymore, right? So they become investable businesses. First check they qualify, but then comes the second and more important check of what is the valuation or the value, right, at which a person. अगर मैं बोलूंगा कि कंपनी प्रॉफिट करती है 10 crores की, and I value that company at 10,000 crores, right? You will say it will take probably, if the company does not grow, 1,000 years to get your money back, right? It doesn't make sense to invest in that company. Versus 10 crores valuation of 100 crores, within 10 years your money is back. Whatever it earns after the 11th year is pure return to you, right? In mota terms, I'm not getting into the mathematics of it, in very mota terms, right? You get your money back in 10 years, and then you keep getting money forever because you've bought equity. So you keep getting money forever. So from that perspective, valuation becomes very. So from a market dominance perspective, I like Sula a lot. From the way that they're marketing themselves, I like them a lot. From the way that they're leveraging digital channels also to reach to a mass, to reach to an audience, I like that a lot. They're also innovating on, and I'll just summarize that for you. They're also innovating on some products, right, for the Indian market, and they're canifying a lot of these drinks. So you'll find now that there are cans of red wine, rosé wine, and white wine that you can buy from market, just you could like buy beer, right? कैन में क्या होता है, क्वांटिटी भी रिड्यूस हो गया, प्राइस पॉइंट भी थोड़ा रिड्यूस हो गया, पीपल कैन ट्राई इट एट देयर होम, दे कैन जस्ट बाय इट एंड ट्राई इट, इफ दे लाइक इट दे कैन कंटिन्यू बाइंग. So that is one of the interesting initiatives that they have taken. Other companies have also started doing that, but they are also there. So they are
They
looking
have copied it mostly.
Yeah, they've probably copied it. These people have copied it. Whoever has copied whoever, they are at least going in that direction of trying to understand the market better while maintaining their dominant position in the premium segment where they are good. That is very, very important. The base for today, they're not betting the company on anything, and they're keeping on expanding. Second thing that I liked was that they are at 100% capacity utilization, right? So वहाँ पे problem नहीं है, ये जितना produce कर रहे हैं उतना बेच पा रहे हैं, and ये production capacity increase करने नहीं जा रहे. So the game now becomes premium भी आप charge कर पा रहे हो, pricing power है आपके पास, तो आप ज़्यादा revenue बनाओगे. Plus you can keep improving the process as you keep going along. People learning curve आ जाता है लोगों का, right? Processes become much more efficient. You find you plug all of the loopholes in your processes, and you start optimizing on costs also, right? So that gives you a better margin. Pricing power भी आ गया, cost भी lower हो गए, your margin spread keeps increasing, which is a very good thing for any company. किसी के साथ भी हो तो अच्छा है. तो फेस्ट का कॉन्सेप्ट इंटरेस्टिंग था, और मैंने जो वीडियोस में देखा है इनका विनयार्ड भी, those were good beautiful places where people would want to go and sit. ऐसा नहीं है कि बेकार, right? You can check them out on YouTube also. They are not paying me anything for saying this, but I liked the concept. I liked it interesting, and I think more people will get attracted and find it interesting and spend money on such things. If they start this workation kind of a thing, मतलब और ज्यादा अच्छा चलेगा. अगर ये वाला ब्रांडिंग करके लाते हैं तो वर्केशन वाला डिमांड भी काफी हाई है, तो ये भी काफी चल सकता है. We'll very quickly go down now to the numbers, and Rajat, if you can take it up.
Yeah, you can same sheet. Yeah, here the numbers are basically इनका revenue जो है, it's basically 456 CR का revenue है, and PAT is 52, which is 11.42%, which is a very good number, because last year it was only 3 out of 421, which is a very small number, not even 1%. So it's a great jump. And in FY20 though it was totally loss में था, it was not profitable at all, but they've shown good growth in 2021 and 2022 financial years. And if you come to EPS number ना, I think in यहीं पे कि नीचे it was there in financial, so I remember it by memory. I've noted down as well. Minus 2.09 था per share in 2020 में, but they overturned it into profitability, 0.4 पे ले आए थे, and now it is in 2022 it's at 6.79, which is a very good number.
Absolutely.
16 times jump hai.
Correct.
So,
And now,
बहुत high.
absolutely. Now just look at these figures, right? One of the most interesting things that you will find is here in the revenue contribution, which will give you an insight in terms of how the margins have also improved, right? In the own brands, they were selling only 63% of their own brands. They moved to 68%, and now 83 or 84% of the business comes from own brands.
Yep.
Imports and tourism business are chota number, right?
Correct.
So when they're producing their own stuff, they're getting to enjoy that margin that they are paying to the person जहाँ से वो import करके जब ला रहे थे wine, right? So that has directly impacted their bottom line also. If they've shared so if you look at the gross margin percentage also, it has increased to 65%, right?
Yeah.
So those who have attended our sessions with startups, we usually start off with that, right? Market size batao, market share batao, what is your revenue, what is your gross margin, what is your price point, and what is your gross margin, right? So their profit, their price point is 700 or 750 approx for a 750 ml bottle, and their gross margin is beautiful at 60-65%, right? So that covers up a lot of their fixed costs, and that's why their EBITDA margin has also improved to 25%. ROCE reported has also improved
20%. Yes. And Aishit, you had a question. Na? EPS is calculated on PAT. So PAT figure divided by number of shares gives you EPS, earning per share. That is how it is calculated.
Correct. And this will keep growing as they keep increasing. So now you can assume that the revenue numbers that they've hit could have peaked out there, right? At least in terms of the wine revenue. They can keep increasing their imported trade revenue. जो trading करके वो कमा रहे, they can keep increasing their tourism revenue, right? As more and more of their business shifts to their wine, own wine wala, rather than imported wine wala, they will keep improving on their margins also, and they will keep becoming more profitable. And they are at a 50 crore, I think, profit for a 450 crore bottom line, at kind of an 11%
Yes.
PAT margin, 11.5%
Yes.
PAT, which is a good
They've
PAT
even reduced. Yeah, they've even reduced the debt to equity ratio from 1.23 to
Correct.
0.58, which is
Correct.
less than half, only 30 to 40% of the what it was 2 years ago.
Correct. Revenue. Now you look at this occupancy, 71% average occupancy, and beyond beyond wala Karnataka wala tha kya? I don't remember.
So
It has
beyond
80
wala also Maharashtra, dono Maharashtra ke.
अच्छा, अच्छा. So 82% occupancy. This is like very, very good occupancy ratio for a hotel, and I've done a lot of hotel audits for 5-star hotels also. तो बहुत rarely दिखता है 10,000 के price point पे ऐसा अच्छा नंबर. And tourism business का parameters इन्होंने दिया है. Average room occupancy 60% था, 43% था, now 70%. Room revenue average was $10,300, which is very good. In 17 crores approximately they made, 170 million is 17 crores. And what happens whenever you have a tourism business, whenever you have a room and all of that revenue, you also have sale of beverages almost equal to whatever has been paid for the room and all of that. So a lot of people came there, much of bought wine, etc., etc. So 17 crore का wine का भी धन correct. 24 crore का दारू बेच दिया any tourists को, 17 crore का खाना बेच दिया tourists को. So good ancillary business from this tourism wala business that they got. Perfect. Yeah. Let's go to the objects, or sorry, basis for the price of the offer. We'll go to page 120. I don't know if it is 120 here also, but we'll look at the price. थोड़ा सा नीचे होगा ना ये.
Yeah, here it is.
यहाँ पे भी देखो आप बाय वर्ड दिखाएगा, qualitative factors can basis for the price, high barriers of entry, established market leader, and all of these things. And I read those first because यहाँ पे spoiler मिल जाता है कि industry क्या है नहीं. So I like going as a normal way where I get the context about the business and I'm not influenced by what they're trying to sell to me, and I just understand it for its own merit first, and then I look at these factors and all of that. This is the basis that they'll be using for valuing the company, and they're looking at the EPS, then putting weights कि last 3 years में क्या EPS था and उसका weighted क्या आ सकता है. So 3 का EPS आया, उसके बाद ही probably इस पे एक PE ratio लगाने चाहिए, right? So P ratio कैसे आएगा? इंडस्ट्री का एवरेज एक P ratio लिया जाएगा, उसको मल्टीप्लाई किया जाएगा EPS से, एंड विल गेट अ प्राइस फॉर दिस कंपनी, राइट? सो अभी तक इन्होंने P का फ्लोर और वो डाला नहीं है. द हाईएस्ट P इन द peer group is 116, lowest is 45, average is 77. So if it is valued at a 77 का average, then the company can be valued at 77 into 3, which is 210 plus 21, 231 approximately, right? 230, 240 का band हो सकता है इसका, if you take this route, right? This diluted EPS into P.
Yes.
Perfect. Net asset value 55 rupees का है, right? So this can also be one of the ways in which you can value a company. You can look at the net asset value, which is basically
book
value, right? So the total book value by the number of shares give you the book value per share. So that is the net asset value per equity share, which is 55 रुपया. तो इसका अगर 230, 240, 250 भी होता है, तो 5x of its book value is its market value. I think that can be higher. Yeah, Rajat, I was just looking at that. They have 4 owned properties, right?
Yes.
And that is at cost in their balance sheet. If we bring that to the market value, they would have also grown. So they started in 1996, right? तो तब से लेके अब तक तो बहुत property value increase किया होगा.
But they've also mentioned ना कि उनका जो gestation period होता है for the vineyard, it's only 17 to 18 years. So they might need to revamp these vineyards or maybe go on to new vineyards. तो ये भी एक बहुत बड़ा qualitative factor है.
Fair. Good point है. Good point. But फिर भी इसमें कुछ growth तो आएगा. जितना मैं सोच रहा हूँ उतना नहीं, but some growth.
Yes.
Correct. Fair enough. Peer groups का इसमें देखा, यूनाइटेड ब्रूवरीज, रैंडिको खेतान, तो विला, इसका भी सुला का भी कुछ हो सकता है. अच्छा, यूजुअली व्हाट हैपेंस गाइस, 77 अगर मैं बोल रहा हूँ ना, इट कैन बी एट अ हायर बैंड. यू कैन से दैट ये शांतनु को पता नहीं था 77 बोल दिया, आया तो बहुत ज्यादा पे. They are dominant. They are the dominant people in the industry, right? They are dominating that industry, so they can come out with a premium also, right? It's up to you want to buy into that story or not. But they can come up with a premium, which will be justifiable also because they are the market leader and they are understanding where the market is going, and probably they're taking the market there also. PE, EPS, वगैरह तो we've done, and yeah, I think we can wrap this here, guys. If you have any other questions, we will be happy to answer. One more observation that we had, मैं इसको बाद में ढूंढूंगा, was that the company has declared 2 dividends, right? Interim dividend उसने दिया है 2.5 का, and then a final dividend of 0.4. What does an interim dividend mean? It is announced in between the year, and final dividend is announced at the end of the year. So 31st March 2022 को they announced these dividends, right? 2.5 rupees per share करके कुछ dividend का आता है 19.54 crores, right, Rajat? So 19.5 crores कुछ आता है, that is
Yes.
cash payout that they have to do.
They've already paid it. That is mentioned in the cash flow.
Correct. And cash flow statement, you will find that this has been paid. So 2.4 पे भी एक 19 crore का cash outflow आता है, which they have announced that they will give off as dividend to the existing shareholders who are there, right? तो अब ये जो dividend जाएगा ना, ये 19 crore अभी तक गया नहीं है, right? This is still not paid. This has just been announced. Interestingly, what Rajat pointed out was, company के books में Rajat 10 crore cash, right?
Yes, 10.919 crores.
Already this is a cash starved industry where cash flow is very, very important. Cash comes 1 year later, right? They are going to pay out 19 crores somewhere in the next 3 to 4 months, or probably they've paid it out now. And they had only 10 crores in cash on 31st March 2022. ये 9 करोड़ रुपए और लाएगा कहां से भाई देने? And why are they just taking off all of the cash from the company? That is a very important question that needs to be asked, which I think which we should pose to the CFO of the company also कि यार ये सोच क्या रहे हो? आप सही सोच रहे होगे, मुझे explanation की जरूरत होगी to invest in the company just to understand how this cash flow management makes sense. Number 2 red flag here was that in the current year, their cash flow from operations, Rajat, was it positive or negative?
Current year में negative था because of these 2 cash outflows. One was dividend, मतलब 2020 के अंदर, और एक और था because of that purchase consideration in their business combination transaction.
Correct.
I think 16 crores के आसपास का वो था, and 16 और 19 का total होता है 34, but उनका 30 के आसपास का negative आ रहा figure.
Correct. So if we look at their cash flow statements also now, guys, let's also look at that. 5 मिनट उस पे भी spend करते हैं. Let's look at this. 31st March 2022, net cash from operations, and last year बहुत high था, इस year थोड़ा कम हो गया है, right? The net cash that it has generated from operations. So there is a profit that the company earns, and there is a cash flow that it makes, right? What is profit that I will make? I have sold 100 rupees thing to Rajat for 1 lakh rupees, right? 9, तो पूरा का पूरा मेरा बाकी profit है 99,900 rupees. Rajat will pay it back after 10 years to me. My cash flow will show 0. 100 rupees गया हुआ दिखाएगा, negative 100 rupees, because trade receivable है बाकी. This guy will pay me back 100 years later. He will 10 years later देगा, 100 साल बाद देगा, right? So that is, I can show profitability, I can show a big fat number, but I don't have cash flow. What happens if I don't have cash flow? I can't buy more and sell to other people. I can't pay my vendors. I can't pay my employees. So cash flow is king in any business. If you see cash flows declining or not being in line with the profitability of the company, then there is something wrong with the company, right? यहाँ मैं नहीं बोलना चाहूंगा कि यहाँ कुछ wrong है, क्योंकि मैं ज़्यादा और हमारे पास data नहीं है to prove it, but it is declining. Even though the profitability has increased, the cash flow has not increased. So probably cash बाद में आएगा. And as we have seen, इसका 1 year का cycle ही है cash का, right? साल भर बाद payment आता है.
Maybe they would have given a strong, data sets as per the future. मतलब हर month में कितना revenue का cash realization हो जाएगा. So that could have given a more confidence to
Confidence.
Yeah, maybe you are getting dividend payout in May, in September or October. So, but within these 6 months, we will be able to get a cash inflow of more than 50-60 crores. So हम वो 19 crores भी pay कर पाएंगे and अपना business भी carry on कर पाएंगे. Something like that.
And out of that cash flow, they've invested in property, plant, equipment, and all of that. So 56 crores का net investment इन्होंने किया है. And
so there's a figure ना, यहाँ पे payment in relation to purchase consideration and business combination, B column के अंदर में just 161.65 का negative cash flow है. This was a extraordinary figure.
वो तो ठीक है, इन्होंने कोई खरीदा है.
हाँ, so
plus खुद भी capacity increase का. So that is
correct. तो वो fine है, और नीचे 19.4 CR का dividend payout.
So this is 19.4 CR guys. This is 2.5 वाला and still 2.4 and पैसे बचे 10 करोड़. तो जल्दी अगर यहाँ से trade receivables से पैसा नहीं आए, right? These are the trade receivables of the company. अगर ये पैसा release नहीं हुआ, तो company problem में पड़ जाएगी. Consumer behavior is the most important thing, right? If you can understand consumer behavior, you can understand any industry, and every industry is easy to understand if you can just dive a bit deep into it, spend some time understanding the jargons in the industry, and talking to consumers about it. One thing that I am feeling bad that we didn't do was talk to a lot of people who consumed wine and understand their pattern and behavior, right? We are time limited hai, constraints and all of that. But going forward, as the organization also grows, what we want to do is go out there and talk to more such people, get them primary research also done, primary feedback from people who are drinking wine. कि भाई आपको सूला का पसंद है, आपको फ्रैटेली का पसंद है. And if majority of people who we interview and stuff say that फ्रैटेली पसंद है, that gives me an insight कि अच्छा इसलिए ज़्यादा आगे चल. सूला पसंद है तो क्यों पसंद है? Is it the taste? Is it the sense that they get out of it? Satisfaction, sense of satisfaction. Is it beautiful and they just keep it in their homes and then let it age or something like that? So what exactly makes them buy something? That is the missing chunk here. Based research, and I keep telling people, and I think I wrote that on Discord today also, be approximately right than precisely wrong, right? Don't make very, very hard or harsh assumptions and try to be very accurate to the point of fault. Be approximately right. Directionally सही है ना ये कंपनी. मोटा मोटा इसका अगर वैल्यूएशन 50 करोड़ का प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी है, कुछ 20x 30x ऑफ प्रॉफिट पे आता है, प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी पे आता है. This company is in the right direction. It's increasing its margin. It's increasing its revenue. Promoters are sorted. Promoters are good, established people in the market. Probably can be a buy. If not, then probably will not be a good buy, right? Plus, if you are interested in that space, wine को track करना है as a space, थोड़ा बहुत shares लेके रखो, track करते रहो space को, आगे कहीं opportunity दिखे वहाँ डाल देना, right? So from that perspective, it's always better to know